remember the last family dinner before the world outside my walls melted away. The blueberry pie sat untouched, its sweetness overshadowed by my father's booming laughter. "You're pursuing what? Parasites? What are you, some kind of mad scientist?" I could still hear the echoes of their ridicule, as if I were listening from outside my own body, a ghost in the very room where I was supposed to belong. My mother's eyes darted nervously between my father and me, betraying her discomfort, while my younger sibling snickered innocent laughter laced with malice. "Get a real job, for God's sake," my sister chimed in, her voice too sugary for the contempt it carried. "You'll lose your mind over this ridiculous obsession." Little did they know, it was their laughter, each giggle and mockery, that festered inside me, igniting a spark of determination. I was no mad scientist, but an unfortunate fool who had glimpsed horrors lurking beneath our everyday reality. My career as a food safety inspector had been my shining badge of honor until the day I was thrust into the shadows for daring to expose the hidden rot maggots in the grain, contamination that spread through the local silos in ways that defied explanation. Years passed since I was branded hysterical, but I reconstructed myself from those ashes. Now, I was the one who uncovered truths buried deep within the soil, the one who survived what would drive many to madness. I was not returning as the disgrace they dubbed me, but as a warning, a harbinger of the unseen. The drive back to my family home felt surreal. Fields lined with silos rolled past like a string of pearls, each one a monument to the unseen horrors I had learned to navigate. My hands shook on the steering wheel, the weight of my knowledge pressing down on me. I could feel the eyes of my family upon me, imagining their surprise, their dismay. But mostly, when I stepped inside the house, the once familiar scent of lavender cleaner felt foreign, tainted with the mustiness of neglect. My family was gathered in the living room, their laughter fading into an awkward silence as I entered. The air thickened, a palpable tension that I hadn't expected. "Look who's back," my father managed, though the warmth was absent. Instead of retaliation, I offered them a smile, one that felt strange upon my face. "I've come to warn you." They exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and disbelief. I could feel as I spoke. I pulled out a small vial, one I had kept hidden within my coat. The contents sloshed uneasily against the glass, a dark fluid that caught the light in a way that made it appear alive. "This is just the beginning. I've uncovered a network, a hidden web of infestations that link to unexplained deaths. I've seen things you wouldn't believe, things that dwell just beyond what we can perceive." Their laughter returned, a derisive echo of the past. My father shook his head, the disbelief almost comical, but with an edge of fear. "You should see someone, really, you're losing it." But I pressed on, urgency creeping into my voice. "You have to listen to me. The silos, something is happening to them. They're breeding something far more sinister than we understand." Then came the voices, the soft, whispering voices that seeped through the walls, an ominous hum that began to resonate in the space around us. My family's laughter faded, replaced with furrowed brows and glances toward the hallway. "Do you hear that?" my younger brother whispered, voice trembling. I nodded. "It's coming from the silos. They're connected. The moment we ignore the signs, that's when the true horror reveals itself." My father stood abruptly, dismissive, but as he turned to leave, the front door swung open on its own, slamming against the wall. The gust of wind that followed carried the unmistakable stench of decay, a rancid, overwhelming smell that churned my stomach. Every face in the room twisted with horror as a swarm of maggots poured forth from the doorway, writhing and squirming across the floor, a living tide of flesh. Their grotesque presence surged toward us, inching closer to my family, who stood frozen in disbelief. "Get back!" I screamed. But it wasn't the swarm they feared. It was the certainty that I had been right all along. The room erupted in chaos. My sister screamed, my mother cried out, and my brother stumbled back, nearly colliding with my father, whose face had drained of color. The truth had materialized before them, a monster born of their disbelief. The visions I had seen, the horrors I had endured to uncover these truths, they erupted before their eyes, twisting the very fabric of our reality. The weight of what I had learned crushed me, but it was the vindication I had longed for all along. Standing amidst the chaos, I faced them, the shadows of the horrors I had survived dancing around me like a crown. "This is what I've become," I declared, a blend of power and despair coursing through my veins. "This is what I've survived." They were no longer mocking, they were witnesses. And as I saw their faces, horror-stricken, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. I had returned not just as a warning, but as a beacon of truth, a truth they could never unsee. And as the last of the swarm vanished into the corners of the room, a haunting silence fell over us, heavy and suffocating. The echoes of their laughter had been replaced by the weight of their disbelief. And in that moment, I knew the haunting was just beginning.